Welcome, swimmers, swammers, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, and all those in between. Thank you for joining the SwimBrosPodcast today. We have an electric episode today, folks. We have 7-time Atlantic 10 champion, NCAA Division I program, St. Bonaventure, just to start off the list. 2014 A10 conference team title, 3 years volunteer assistant at Division III school in central Pennsylvania. He spent the 2022-2023 season as an assistant senior coach in Madison, Wisconsin at the aquatic club there, and also as a volunteer assistant with the University of Wisconsin, as we've had many other previous guests on the podcast already. And he also helped lead that Wisconsin team on the women's side to the best NCAA finish they've had since 2017, and the men's team scoring the most points ever at the Big Ten championships. So on Wisconsin, and now in his most recent title, in Titletown as an assistant coach at Alabama. So now on Wisconsin, now roll tide. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome us and joining Mike White. Mike White, thank you for joining the podcast today.
Wow. I've never had an intro like that. That was, you nailed it right off the tee. Loved it. Right down
gotta set the table before you have the meal, right? You gotta have that. So and it's deservingly so. You've got quite the history. I'm excited to learn more about it. I'm excited to hear the journey. And yeah, absolutely. If you're coming on the show, we gotta make sure that people know we're just not bringing schlubs on here. We're bringing top tier, man. I mean, look at that mustache, folks.
Wow.
Like that's
you're making me blush here, Grant.
Good. Matches the crimson. I think that's what it would be. Crimson down there now.
Crimson red, baby.
Awesome. So before we get into some things, kind of loosen up, get some fast pacedness to it. We're gonna rip a couple through just rapid fire questions here. Let the listeners get to know you a little bit more before you're just accolades. And so these answers, whatever you want to say, responses, probably keep them under like a, let's say under a 50 free record. So under 17.9 seconds to respond to these. Perfect. They don't have to be too much in depth. We can touch them later, but if there's one that really grips you, we can go into it, but we'll see how it goes. All right.
Sounds great. Let it rip.
All right. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Best meal of the day?
Breakfast. Easy. Working
out, upper body or lower body?
Shout out to Trevor. Upper body, chest, no doubt.
Good man. For a vacation, would you rather go to the beach or to the mountains?
Beach, for sure. Yeah.
Good call. Where is the best pool you've ever been to?
Wow, that's a tough one. Best pool I've ever been to? Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably have to go. I love Irvine, just the double 50 meter. Like, weather's always great. It's fast. I don't know. California swimming is pretty special, especially when it has that big of meets there all the time. So probably, I don't know.
Irvine, I can agree. One of the nicer pools I've ever been to, and it's a high school pool. So that's wild. Right? That's wild to me. Yeah. Favorite music and or favorite artist?
I don't know. The kids just asked me this morning too. I always go back to hip hop. I listen to everything. Like one day I'll be driving, listening to country with my windows down. The next day I'll be listening to the 90s hip hop. But probably favorite artist, always end up going back to Mac Miller. Like just R&B.
Wow, I was listening to some Blue World yesterday on the ride home from practice. Wow, uncanny. So we got some Tyler Childers, it sounds like, all the way to Ludacris. Sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Good spectrum, like the range. Favorite sport?
Favorite sport? Man, probably swimming, but outside of swimming, football for sure. Yeah,
awesome. Football fan. Favorite dessert?
Oh man, dude, I don't discriminate. I don't know, dude. A Pizookie. I mean, have you had one in Arizona?
Yeah, they're big. They're big out here.
Yeah, they're big. So yeah, for those who don't know, it's a melted kind of baked cookie inside of a little dish, like a cast iron skillet with a scoop of ice cream on top. It's
delicious. Early lane line rating 10 out of 10. Probably not the most health conscious, but oh man, it slaps.
Calories don't count on
Not in Pazuki land.
Thursday.
Not in Pazuki land. Favorite animal?
Favorite animal? Oh man, probably. I mean, dog's kind of chalk. It's kind of a chalk pick. Huge dog fan. If I'm going not dog, oh man, gotta go. I don't know. It's like a lion or some boring answer, but
King of the
dogs.
Jungle? That ain't boring. That ain't boring. Come on. They made Lion King. That's like one of the best movies of all time, dude. Come on. Don't sell yourself short here. We only got a couple more. Obviously, we heard the accolades, 14-time, but relay or individual? Which event do you like more?
Are you asking like what they were, or which
relays. Which event do you like more?
Relays all day, baby. That 200 medley to start off. Don't even get me started.
Let's go. Morning practice or afternoon practice?
Oh man, as a coach, afternoon. As an athlete, no. Excuse me. As a swimmer, afternoon. As a coach, morning.
I was gonna say, as an athlete, you like?
No, athlete. Never want to go in the morning.
Okay, good. And the last one, dual meets. Should they be suited or unsuited?
Ooh, you would have talked to 2016 Mike. I would have said like we should all be swimming with lead swimsuits at dual meets. You talk to like Coach Mike now. I don't think you should race slow. So I'm a pro suit and dual meets.
Bars. And folks, that is what we call growth. That's what we call growth right there. That's a great way. We could just chalk the podcast up to that at this point. But that is a great segue. Hope everyone enjoyed getting to know Mike a little bit more. I did. I love those. Especially the last one there. Good man on that front. And so now that we've kind of got those like hidden, just those hit or miss questions there, Mike, where did your journey start? Where did it go? Obviously, we know you're an athlete and a coach, but how did you go into St. Bonaventure as an athlete? How did you get there? Are you from that part of the country? And just kind of drive us through the process to end up in the chair you're in now, down in Titletown. Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide. So you actually might not even know this. I am actually from Gilbert, Arizona.
Wow. Okay. So we got a local legend here.
I knew well about Sun Devil swimming before you were around.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, kind of moved all around Phoenix, but so grew up there and then swam a couple different clubs out there. Shout out to Arizona Gold. And a lot of people don't even know what that is, but we were the real deal back then, or at least we thought we were. But so from there, just didn't really look at any schools out east. And eventually, I can't even remember how it really started, but Sean McNamee, the coach there, he reached out to me and we kind of kept the conversation rolling. And it was the only school out east that I really looked at. And I told my dad I didn't even want to go on a recruiting visit there. And eventually decided, I'll take the trip, and had a blast.
All good.
Anyway, so took the trip, fell in love. Smallest Division I school in the country. Big time basketball. For such a small school, the athletics are actually fairly competitive from a mid-major perspective. But no, just fell in love with the team there. Sean McNamee ran that program for like 25 years, I think 26 years. And really built a really unique environment that I don't think a lot of universities have really seen, or anything that I've really seen. Did a phenomenal job there, learned a lot, graduated, stayed another year, and got my master's there. And from there, I decided to get out of the sport for a little bit. I always knew I kind of wanted to be a coach, but I think it was kind of a good time in my life to, branch out, try something different, learn lessons, meet new people, travel to different spots. Maybe I wouldn't coaching. So I I moved back home for a little bit, got a job working on a golf course. The course I actually grew up swimming at that country club, and it was the best like 2-month job you could ask for. Just it was a cart barn guy, so it was amazing. But then I got a job selling insurance. Moved to Minnesota for 9 months and freeze my butt off and pretty much got a degree in insurance it was a 9-month training program, which was long, but it was fun. It was just it was like 16 guys in my class. They're all former athletes, and it was a good time. But from there, moved to State College, Pennsylvania, where my sales territory was, and got insurance was not for me, but I really did enjoy the job at the end of it. Like it's the grind. I mean, it was an outdoor sales job, so I was on the road from 8 to 4 every single day, 5 days a week. Selling business and life insurance, and it was hard, but it was good. It taught me a lot that I don't think I ever would have learned if I went right into coaching. So loved that experience, but knew pretty early on it wasn't for me. That's where I was volunteering with Juniata College. So that was kind of I started my own lessons business in like college and then a little bit after, and I've still kind of done it to this day. And so really, really enjoy that. It was another way to just make some money. So that was kind of my initial taste into coaching, I guess. And then at Juniata, I was just volunteering whenever I could. So working like 60 plus hours a week and trying to get on deck as much as I could. I just loved it. So I used to get up, crack of dawn on Saturday after working all week, and I was happy to be there. So after I quit my job, I didn't really have a plan. I just knew it was going to be in coaching, or at least in swimming. I actually thought about starting a swim podcast, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I was like, I literally had the text typed to Kyle Sockwell, actually, because we had been crossed paths like numerous times, and I always liked him, and we follow each other on Twitter, and we talk on Twitter every once in a while and stuff. But I literally was like this close to being like, dude, you want to start a podcast? And then he goes off and does his thing, starts his YouTube page, and I was like, what could have been?
What could have been, dude? You were the brainchild behind it. Maybe this is breaking news. Without Mike White, we wouldn't have Kyle Sockwell. So there you go. The swimming CEO, really founded by Mike White himself. That's uncharacteristic to hear, but that's crazy news, folks. That's breaking here first on the SwimBros podcast.
Yeah, if he's the CEO of swimming Twitter, I'm the god of swimming Twitter, I guess.
There we go. We're there's levels to this stuff, folks. There's always levels to this. And also on that note, I'd like to think that Kyle Sockwell got his inspiration for his podcast. Well, one now from Mike, but I guess second tier from the SwimBros podcast. Sources are saying that my DMs are filling up with that, asking about that every day. But I was actually on Kyle's podcast. It was going to be the first episode. It was myself and Julian Hill, and we did the recording, but the hardware crashed, and so the entire it was so tragic. It was like an hour and 20, and it was a great episode. Like we had, this is like the first thing that comes to mind, but we had Family Feud references. Steve Harvey was a main topic somehow.
It broke the internet.
Yeah, it would. I'm glad I don't even say less on my regard. Yeah, and then we get a text later, and he's like, "Sorry guys, the recorder crashed." And I was like, "Man, I've my brother and I with this podcast, we've been there many a times before. I think our first 3, the audio was corrupted, the audio file. So it's just a growing pain, But great to know that. That's a good insight. That's a good little pit stop before we power through.
Yeah. So where was I? Juniata. Almost started a podcast. But kind of spent some time just like traveling and kind of spending time with my family. I moved back to Arizona for a little bit, which was great. I just reached out to a bunch of people I knew in the industry, and talked to different coaches and kind of got some advice. I got coffee with Herb a couple times. So that was great. And that's where I'd always been a fan of him and following him on Twitter and all that stuff. So it's great to finally kind of like introduce myself and kind of build a little bit of a relationship there. And then, but yeah, I just knew I was going to figure it out somehow. And I luckily knew Trevor at Wisconsin. And so I was like, I just wanted to start working camps. So my initial plan was to work Wisconsin and then kind of go all over and try and get into a few camps that way. But yeah, I think I was only supposed to work the Wisconsin camp for a week, maybe 2. I can't really remember. And then they were like, could you work another one? Could you work another one? And I was like, sure. Like, say less. Like I was a huge Wisconsin Badger fan growing up. My parents went there. Like my cousins have all went there. And so I was a huge fan of the sports teams my whole life and loved Madison. Took trips there numerous times. And so I was like, yeah, I'll spend time in Madison. Sure. Coaching kids. It was great. So I had a blast doing that and kind of cemented my love for being on deck and coaching. And was like, yeah, it's just like a litmus test into knowing this was the right move. And even though it was a little scary at times, but yeah, so at the end, I went up to Yuri. Shout out to Yuri. I was like, hey, if you guys need a volunteer next year, like I'll be there. And he called me, I think a week or 2 later, and he kind of did a little bit of an interview, and then a couple days later offered me the job. Yeah, it was an immediate yes. Or actually, I think I told him I need to talk to my parents because I made a habit of jumping into decisions without talking to my like loved ones to make sure. So everything was good, but it was an easy decision on everybody's part. But yeah, and then spent the year at Wisconsin, which was a true dream come true. Like I tried to go swim there and I just wasn't good enough. And so I was always kind of stuck a thorn in me for a while, and then kind of getting going there and having an impact on that program was just, it was just a blessing. And especially with that staff, like, and one of my best friends, Trevor, like it just, you couldn't have asked for a better first stop. And now I'm here. I knew I was going to be gone after a year. I was like, I just want to kind of broaden my horizons. And then the NCAA was like, oh yeah, volunteers are no longer a thing. So you kind of have to pack your bags and figure it out. And so I was like, here we go. And got a call from Margot one day, and yeah, the rest was history. I was saying roll tide by the end of that one.
Heck yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one of my teammates actually down there, Isabel Matissa, she's a roll tide roll as well too. So I was just got to see her every time I'm back home, and love me some Charlie Hawk, Kenzie Mack, sweet as can be, absolute savage in the pool though.
Dog.
Yeah, certified dog for sure. And but yeah, no, I appreciate you steering us through that, guiding us through that journey and that process. And that's really neat to hear about your connection and ties to Madison, Wisconsin. What the Swim Bros podcast seems to just be highlighting the entire city of Madison, Wisconsin, and basically just openly praising Wisconsin on the regular. But it just seems like a lot of ties come back from that place, and I'm only hearing great things. And like you said, Yuri, such a powerful individual, great individual as well, and so neat to have that the teammate, the friendship start in St. Bonaventure with Trevor, and have that flourish even more in Wisconsin, to meet Maddie Martins, and to have that kind of just explode. And like obviously things, I'm a big believer in things happening for a very specific way and a very specific reason. Mm-hmm. And, the opportunity that you didn't get to be an athlete there, you really got to close, like, I feel like almost a more final chapter by being a coach there, by helping like swim camps there, helping these younger kids, these younger generations, and really like flourishing into this job where, it seems like another obstacle of like, all right. And she's like, NCAA says no volunteer jobs. Well, now you're getting paid to do a coaching job. So that's probably a lot better than based on the stories that Trevor's told me about his journey, sleeping on basement couches, driving, being a pizza guy.
Yeah.
Unless it's Planet Pizza from Toy Story. I mean, that's got to be the all-time job.
Yeah.
But lands you there in Titletown, and I'm really eager to hear about like your time there at Alabama thus far and how the process of what you guys do really elaborates. Margot's a YMCA swimmer. I have some background with YMCA too, and I actually swam on a Team USA. I think it was the Pan American Games with Margot as well. So really cool to have that dynamic as an athlete, and then see her on deck. Also have the background and history we have, but coming down to Alabama, what does your guys' week look like? What do you guys split up groups? How's the start of your season go into, and what does that really look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, obviously with the changes in the staff this year, I mean, it initially brought like obviously some challenges. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of our sport is it's always moving parts. Coaches are constantly changing, and so everybody's got those challenges. And I think this staff, Margot in particular, with going through it all, and but this staff as a whole has done a phenomenal job of kind of taking those hurdles and making them opportunities. I don't know. I think if you talk to a lot of our athletes right now, they would feel pretty optimistic kind of where we're at as a program. I just think all four of us new coaches just brought in a different perspective, both like in and out of the water. When I came into this place, I said in my statement, when Margot gave me the job, I was like, this place, like, championships are not the goal, they're the expectation. And so I've just kind of kept that on my like radar in every decision I've made, because like at the end of the day, I mean, every sport here at Alabama is fighting for championships. And so there's no reason that swimming should not be in that conversation. Will it take some time? Yes. Are there hurdles right now? Yes. But I've seen the cards here. I know what we're playing with. And I think the rest of our staff's kind of realizing that too. And we're just super excited about kind of the state of Alabama swimming. It's a new, fresh start. And things are rolling. Things are going great in recruiting. And now the swimming stuff has been, we've just split into groups. So we spent the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season primarily together. We made a big focus on dryland in the beginning of the year. So we hit about 4 drylands a week, 2 lifts, and then kind of tapered it down, and then started to get more into group focus after we kind of hit that general fitness phase. So now I mean, Margot being an elite level sprinter, she likes to have sprint in as many groups as possible. So we have sprint, and we got mid sprint, and then we got mid distance. So it's like distance doesn't even get its own group. It's like no distance.
Nice.
But yeah, so now we're split up into those groups pretty much full time right now. And it's just, I don't know. One thing I love that Herbie talks about is specificity in your individual sports or events and athletes, but also what they need specifically. And I mean, we take a very group mindset, like we're individual groups, but we all work together so that instead of just 2 eyes on all of these athletes in the sprint group, I mean, we have probably all of our coaches having some kind of input with every single group, which we love. Just more opinions, more ideas, bringing up new questions. So we're, it's a lot of creativity going on here. Some maybe not be good, but it's going really well.
No, that's awesome. And I think, being a swimmer of Herbie and, talking with Noah Hensley on our last episode that we had on the podcast, I think regardless of that creativity, I talked to Herbie, and I'm pretty like brutally honest sometimes. There's some hits. There's a lot of big hits with Herbie, fortunately. And discussing some ideas off the podcast with Noah, like he has a lot of big hits too. And we also talk about the ones that miss. Some of the ideas are just all right. Well, we'll chalk that one up to not doing it again. That's the affirmation we're going to go forward, and that's the learning curve we had with that. But I think it's important because at least if you go through that, before in my career, I used to think like, okay, if this doesn't seem like it's likely to succeed or something, like we're just not going to try it. But maybe sometimes that opportunity, that road will give birth or give creation to something else, and even something that you may have never expected. Like Herbie has been giving us these PVC pipes for kicking.
Yeah.
And I like got the first one. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like, this dude is off his rocker. Like, why are we bringing a PV? Like, what is this gonna do for me?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like reoriented how I move in the water, especially underwaters, for dolphin kicks in every race and streamline glides. And it all just came from him being creative. And then today after practice, we talked about like this idea he has with it, this idea, and then like changing it. And then like stuff we do on buckets, like because physiology and science tells us about this with weightlifters and how he's applying that to actual sports. Like you said, getting the specificity behind it. I think it's so important to have that creativity. And, like you said, with those first couple weeks, Margot kind of splitting up the groups into always having that sprint oriented focus is ultimately like all of our events, unless you're in open water and out in the ocean or wherever they have open water events, I don't really know. But everything in our sport has to have some ounce and some semblance of acceleration and maximal output, because the top end, I think like the record is like sub 14:20 in a mile now at this point. I don't even know what mile times are, but I mean, other than the 500 or other than the mile, it's 500 and down. And that's only taken, we got to be closing on 4 minutes soon. Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of speed qualities. That's a lot of efficiency. So is that something that you guys focus on a lot of, like from top down, from building up from day one? Or are you just hopping in and is it like, all right, we're going to go just kind of general scope, like 6K, and then eventually narrow it down to groups from the start of the year?
No. So like, I think I love the saying. I mean, it's kind of chalk, but like, keep it simple, stupid. And so like everything was like from a like simple perspective. We weren't trying to change the wheel with our dry land. We weren't trying to change the wheel with our general fitness work. We weren't trying to change the wheel in our initial like early season practices. But what we did was we did everything with a purpose. So like, for example, we don't just do a 400 flop. It's a 400 free, feet past the flags, and then we progress more underwater kicks off every wall.
Love that.
So it gets them started, all right? Carrying yourself off the wall, having a good body line, learning to rotate through that body line. How do we break out with our hips higher than our head so that we're flat coming through the surface, not going straight up? Like just those little things. So like creating warm-ups to get those little reps early while also getting that base under you, getting the fitness level up early. So just stuff like that. And it's like, I think, and to your point, like having the kind of the sprint mindset. And I think that gets kind of, a lot of things gets grouped into that. But I think the biggest thing is coaches such as Herbie and big sprint coaches, they kind of just realize like, if we just tailor everything back, make everything like thought out, whether from every yard in practice, or at least most of the yards in practice, like it's just going to give us the amount of improvement we can get in these individual cycles and these kind of short seasons. I mean, realistically, like the body can't adapt that fast, and it takes a long time and a lot of work. But I mean, the season goes by pretty dang quick. So if you can like get better reps throughout a 10-week cycle or an entire season every single time, I mean, you just have that much of improvement. And with how fast swimming's getting now, you can't afford not to. So I think that's that's kind of what I think the physiology has really helped the sport in a lot of different ways and just making smarter decisions. But I think it's made the reps of our sport much more quality.
Yeah. No, I think that's incredibly insightful, and something that needs to be reiterated more and more and more is, Bob has a saying that, like, I mean, he pretty much has followed through every day of my life of knowing him, and every practice really. It's just sustained systemic stress, and just repeating that, and just introducing the athlete to a stress. Sometimes with his workouts, that seems like a lot. Sometimes it demands that, but make it sustainable and make it systematic. And when you look at it, it makes sense. Like, even Herbie talks about it, like sometimes you look at his workouts for Bob and you're like, how am I going to do this? And you're like, okay, well, it breaks down. It's like, that's the kick set. Okay. Now with warm up, now we're at like 2,500 already. Then a pool set. Okay. Now we're at like 35 or 4. And then the main set, like 1,500 to 3. Like, and then that adds up at the end of it to this number that you see at the bottom of the paper. And you're like, wow, I don't know how that's even possible. But each time it's like, all right, I've drained my legs. Now we're going pulling. Now we're going to the set. It just kind of adds up in that systematic way, and adding those days time and time again. It kind of goes back onto, like, bounces to another end of the spectrum, like what you talked about of, if we can do those intentional things a little bit better every day, is something that I think, like, Herbie always talks about is, some of the practices at the start of the season, I'm like, okay, 250s and like 225s, like 2 rounds of that, like maximal output. Like, yeah, that's demanding, but I was like, I feel like I can do more right now. But it's like, all right, like, do this really well. The next week we're going to do more. And then the next week after that, we're going to do more. Like, there's you keep stacking those adaptations and stacking those principles. But if you're not doing it well at the start, you're not going to do it well at levels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. And what you said about the days, the seasons, it's always amazing. I mean, I just saw it the other day and I knew it was coming because I even said it. And on the bottom of our paper, sometimes they'll put like 200 days till blah, blah, blah. And it was like 200 days till NCAAs. And we don't do it every day. But like, I think it was last week, it was like 186 days. And I was like, 2 weeks, like already off, already chipped away. And so as a coach, like, how do you manage that? Like, is there stress behind creating a schedule, especially for college athletes, where it's not a full year? Yeah, you want to retain athletes in the summer, but for a college coach, is it stressful? Is it invigorating? Is it a combination of those? But how do you organize and orchestrate that condensed amount of time, which seems like a lot, and ultimately it is like 200 plus days. But you and I both know when it starts on day one, January sneaks up real quick, and then after that, you're rolling into March, and you better have your preparations in place, and you better have the work done beforehand.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it comes to, I don't know, one thing I love that Margot talks about is like, yeah, you can have a plan. I mean, what did Mike Tyson say? What was that quote? It was like,
everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, you got to always have like the bones. You got to know kind of where you're going, how you're planning to get there, but then just life will throw curveball after curveball at you. And so I think Margot likes to take it, like, I mean, everything from a day by day perspective, week by week, month, year. I mean, that's one thing we reiterated with our athletes is win the day, win the week, win the month, win the year. And so if you have that kind of perspective where, like, okay, we know that this macro cycle is going to be from here to here. All right, we're going to have a shorter one here, and then we're going to kind of transition into whatever. Like, got to have that. And so that's kind of what, like, we like to kind of have that understanding, and then just really focus, okay, how are we going to do this week? And then go back. So we kind of do it in reverse, and then keep each day in front of us, keep it raw, especially in the sprint group. Like, we're just, I mean, we're Margot and I talk about like what like fun stuff could we do to kind of just get them engaged. So probably just as much as what we're going to do on our kind of max speed days. I mean, it's just like, you got to have those kind of things. It's because at the end of the day, we're swimming. Like, this is fun. I tell that to my athletes all the time. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, like, you're gonna be sitting at your desk job, it's going to be 4:30 and all you want to do is go home. And your manager puts a stack of work on your desk and you're just be like, dang, I wish I could wake up to go to 5 a.m. practice with my boys. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I got to keep it light, but yeah, just taking everything day by day, staying in the moment, appreciate it, but just have the bones of kind of your plan and just be bought in. Like if you have the athletes and your staff and I mean yourself, like mentally you're bought in and you're inside your own head, like you can do some special things. It's just kind of, I don't know. I don't like to get caught up in what are we going to do versus how we're going to do it. So if you're doing things with the right intention, it's probably going to work unless you're just swimming backwards. But I don't know.
Yeah.
How you like to go about it?
Yeah, no, I think there's one of the best maxims or phrases, sayings I've ever seen is, like, and it really takes a lot of reflection, is once you know your why, you can solve any how. And I think it's really important, especially for athletes, as you start to get into these more elite levels, to really examine that. And especially like for swimming, like we don't have professional swimming league right now. And maybe hopefully it can in the future, but it really is just like very intrinsic. Like there's not the extrinsic level, obviously, like Olympic aspirations, Olympic medals, but that only takes you so far. And I think Margot would like attest to that as well. Like there's another side to the coin. Like even yourself, like we listed off the accolades, like super successful college career, and the aspects, I mean, you just kind of rolled through that, and the aspects that you really talked about were like the camps, like coaching the kids, the joy you had connecting back with Wisconsin, and then being in this position after you had taken another job route and really coming back into this passion that you'd had, but you needed a breakaway. I love that you actually kind of didn't just charge right into coaching, but you actually took time to kind of disconnect and move away from it. So I believe that when you came back into this scene, in any regard, volunteer, assistant, club, college, I think you probably have a deeper affinity and deeper appreciation for it, unless I'm incorrect.
No, you're 1000% correct. I mean, this is a funny story. This happened one of my first few weeks here, probably like the second or third week I was here full time on campus. And I was out in our outdoor facility, which is a gorgeous spot. But I'm doing like, I think it was like a 10-minute whistle kick. I don't know. We were just like doing some general fitness stuff, like nothing crazy. So had them going, but like on that, I like blast EDM music and get them hyped, like mess with them on the whistle and like just like mess with them the whole time. And it's a good time, but we had that going and it was a great time. Like the water aerobics people, like, I don't know, people follow me on Instagram. Like I'm posting like these 6-year-olds just like loving like the vibes of on the deck.
Awesome,
and
bro.
I'm just like, dude, this is just so fun. And some guy that I saw him this morning, he swims at Open Swim every morning. And he gets out and he's like, hey, so you're the swim coach here? And I was like, yeah. And he's all like, oh, cool. Asked me a couple of questions about the program and the state of everything. And I was like, just answering his questions. And then he goes, oh, they pay you to do this? And I was like, can you believe it?
Crazy concept.
I was like, what a life. But yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't really hate my old job as much as I just knew it wasn't for me. And like, but there were some dog days in there. And like, I kind of think back on those days and I'm just like, when I'm here, I mean, working late, like trying to write practice or come up with different plans for the year or itineraries or whatever it is. Like, I'm just like, dude, like this is, it doesn't feel like work. Did you ever play the Xbox, or I guess it was PS3 or 2 or whatever it was, EA, what is it called? NCAA 14?
No, I was never like really a big like college football guy until a little bit this year, but like I never really got into it.
Okay. So that was like I spent way too much time in my childhood. That's probably why I got horrible grades in high school.
Fair enough.
But I played that game a ton. But there was like Road to Glory, where you like play as an athlete, and dynasty mode. So like Road to Glory, you play as an athlete. Dynasty mode, you play as a coach. Bro, I used to spend hours being a coach, and like you can literally recruit. You can like see all their like different stats. You can like travel. You can simulate phone calls. Like, and I didn't really think about it much getting into this career, but I was like, probably a few months ago, I was like, dude, I used to like recruit fake athletes for hours. And then I go play the game, simulate everything like the rest of the week and the games, and then I go back and recruit and like do all that. So it was just like, so a lot of times it feels like a video game when I'm doing this job. So I don't know, you kind of just have those mental shifts, and yeah, it's you realize how lucky you got it in those types of moments.
Yeah, that's a lot of long game vision right there.
Right,
ingrain those reps.
Those reps.
Yeah, get the reps in, recruiting Hingle McCringleberry, and then seeing them work on the field.
Wow, I don't know if anybody gets that reference.
Yeah, I don't think this audience, I really hope understands it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But you know, that's crazy. I had no idea that was the like as far as you could take that on two different roads. Like my brother and I, since we're here, I was a PlayStation guy growing up. I never once unless I was at a friend's house, never once touched Xbox. If that starts a feud, then what? So have you. But we played FIFA, and we always had these, because my brother's 9 years older than me. We always had these like very outdated versions of everything for when I was playing them. So it was like Madden 2004, Madden 2005, which, sorry, Blockbuster, we actually returned the 2004 in the 2005 case, but they're obviously bankrupt now. So if that was our fault, sorry, but that's how it goes. That's how it goes when you got to keep the best Madden game of all time. But one of the FIFAs we had that year was 2005. And we were like, let's just do the dynasty mode or whatever it was. And we were some like 1-star team, the Celtics. We named our manager Ron Gooby. I don't even know where that name came from. If that was created or but it's what I remember. And it was like fun to like build the team, create it, improve the team, improve the players, like train them, run the simulations and everything, which is crazy because then when you actually get in that spot, you're like, okay, now this is for real. I'm getting paid for this. I get to do this. It's like all these get to, and you never stop to be like, oh man, I have to do this today. And the other job, you said there are some dog days where it's hard. And obviously as a coach, there's a lot of challenges too, and a lot of obstacles, but we've been talking for 40 plus minutes now, and there's never been a have to that you've mentioned. It's always been get to and the opportunities that have come. And I think, people only get into coaching because it's, kind of inversely rewarding. You get to see other people succeed. Mm-hmm. And whenever I talk to coaches, the most nerve-wracking day is always race day in some regards, because and especially as I get to the more elite levels, it's not because of disbelief in their athletes. It's the inability to actually do anything else at that point. You're literally just like, all right, here's my son or daughter like going off to do this thing now that we prepared for. I hope they do everything that we've worked on every day. And that's got to be challenging. And in that environment where it's great energy, great vibes, DJ Mikey White on the set. And you talked about that expectation level that you had going into there, like titles are an expectation here, not like anything else. What's that like being in that, that athletic environment? I guess sidebar before you go into that, have you met Nick Saban yet?
I've seen him. I walk next to his car. He drives a new Mercedes to work like every day. He's got like 3 that he goes through, and some guy drives him to work, and he parks diagonal so nobody parks next to him. And
power move.
Yeah, it's like real power move. Daddy Saban. But he drove a Ferrari for Texas weekend, so yeah, he pulled out all the stops. It didn't work out. But,
didn't work out too well. Texas back ? Maybe. But like with Nick Saban, like even it's crazy. Like even looking at the season this year, like the down year is when they're not routing top 5 teams by like 4.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, they lost to number 5. It's like, horrible. Like obviously you always want to win the games, but is that kind of the expectation because of the football team? Like across all athletics. Like I know the basketball team has had some pretty successful years and
Yeah.
across the last decade and across the last half a decade too.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was one I was actually kind of worried coming here a little bit about, like, was football just going to take precedent in everything? Which in a way, like it kind of does. Like they give them a lot of attention because I mean they're paying the bill. And I totally respect that. And like we have a lot of what we have because of them. So, but our Greg Byrne, our AD, has just done a phenomenal job of giving the proper support to every single program on campus. You see it in everything that we do. So that, I mean, that was like something that I don't even have to worry about anymore. But one thing I did see in the beginning of the year, that we've kind of honed in on our athletes now. I think it's Devontae Smith, I believe, wide receiver, won the Heisman 3 or 4 years ago. He talked about the level of expectation. They call it the Bama standard. And I've kind of seen it more and more as I've kind of been around. And so we try to preach that in everything that we do. Like the Bama standard is, I mean, like Nick Saban talks about it, like always doing your job. And I mean, that starts with, I mean, here, taking care of yourself in and out of the water, taking care of your academics, but then showing up here and holding yourself to the Bama standard. That's doing the right things to not only help your teammates, but also help yourself be successful. And so that is one thing that it just bleeds over from every other program. I mean, we got softball winning championships, we got soccer winning championships, we got football, we got basketball being the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. I mean, baseball makes it to the World Series, dang near wins the thing with a brand new coach. Like it's all around. And that's why I kind of in the beginning of the podcast, I was like, like we have no choice. And that feels pretty good in my eyes as a hyper competitive like coach. Like we're just expected to be there. And I mean, Alabama with swimming wise has been, I mean, we're I think we've averaged 11th on the guys side in the NCAA the last 10 years. The girls in the last 5 have averaged 9th. Like, so it's, I mean, and there's been a lot of change in the last 10 years. So it's like that Bama standard holds true to whoever's here. You just gotta try to keep up.
Yeah.
So it's pretty special, and it's fun to be around, and it makes it fun to come to work every day.
Yeah, very, very evidently. And I can imagine that's, that the competitiveness, a lot of athletes can resonate with that, like not everyone can. I've definitely learned, and especially like the last 5 years of my career in life is just, some people are just like so locked into their process and like what they need to do. It's not really about like the competitiveness. It's just about being the best person they can be. But I really thrive in that competitive environment. I really like that a lot. And that something I've learned a lot coming to ASU with Bob is just how important like a standard of excellence is. And it sounds like at Alabama, this, I didn't expect anything else, obviously, with like, talking to, one of the biggest, most potent influences in my last year in my life recently, being Roman Willits, another previous coach of Alabama last 2 years until this year. He would always, just saying like Titletown, USA, just like ingraining that, just the simple, like subliminal, subconscious mentioning of that. It's like, dang, like we only associate, I only associate titles with like surnames, like Mr., Mrs., ma'am, sir, or like winning trophies. Like those are the 2 things. And those are 2 very professional and very serious things for anything, whether it's life or achievement. And it's just that standard of excellence. I think we obviously the most important thing I won't say even the most important thing, but a lot of the time, the thing that we look at the most when we see these achievements or these levels of excellence is the peak, the ceiling, the absolute top point of winning the national championship. And, something that another, SEC school that we saw, and I guess it would be recently, that Netflix documentary, Swamp Kings, like I loved it because the last 10 minutes would be like, oh, we won the championship. But it was like all this other stuff, all this grit, all this dirt, all this work that went into this process, and all the other things that you talked about already too, of it's really what's going to go wrong. It's everything's not going to be perfect. It's what are these intangible stressors, external factors that are going to go into, who's going to get injured, who might get sick, who's going to get flu, or who's going to, Callie Badran talked about who's going to have diarrhea the day of the meet, like who's going to get sick, whatever it is. Like those are the unexpected things, but I've always been raised on and taught to, expect the best, but prepare for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by doing that, and really when I lean into that, that's what has helped a lot. But, especially at Alabama, hearing all these other sports, like you going through the list, like softball, soccer, basketball, football, like swimming, like the ability, I don't think people really appreciate like how hard it is to maintain consistency across all those sports. But even for like Alabama swimming, to get like average like 9th for the women and 11th for the men, like that's a 10th. That's a 10 average, obviously, for those mathematicians out there, over a decade of time. Yeah, over a decade of time. And to be like the 10th in the top 10 of the programs in the United States of America, ultimately in the world, because of the NCAA circuit, to be like within that percentage, that standard deviation of athletes and programs and schools repeatedly is so hard. It's so hard, especially when you have turnover from coaches and stuff like that, with Reed Fusion leaving as well too. Like two great coaches, two great individuals as well. And it's just incredible, talking with Roman too, just to hear your insights on that level of excellence and the culture, hearing about it first in St. Bonaventure, and then now getting into, I think there's different, like we talked about already, there's different levels. So from St. Bonaventure culture we heard about, and then taking it to Alabama, what is one thing that you're really trying to hone in on or pinpoint to implement into the culture of Alabama swimming, for the men's or the women's, of, what is one of the main points that you're trying to put in place and really amplify to help elevate the program to another level, the next level, and just improve as well?
Yeah. No, great question. So I mean, walking in here, I mean, it was a phenomenal culture. I mean, the athletes are, I mean, they're very all competitive on and trying to be, I mean, top of the SEC and top in the NCAAs, and we've got people fighting for Olympic teams and stuff like that. But I think the one thing that St. Bonaventure did really, really well, and shout out again to Sean McNamee, there was a level of accountability across the entire team that was unmatched. It was, the team ran the team. He was a head coach for 25 years by himself. He didn't have assistants. He had managers, and then the seniors were like the assistant coaches, if you will. And so like there needed to be a level of accountability, or else we weren't going to be successful. So it kind of taught a lot of young men for 25 years, I mean, even beyond that, but especially in Max time, like what it meant to, I mean, do your job for the betterment of yourself, but also most importantly, do your job for the betterment of the program. Carrying yourself a certain way, acting a certain way, or going to class, getting involved in the community, and I mean, doing everything you need to do to be successful at the end of the season. And so that is something that, I mean, it helped me just in my development as a young man, but also, I mean, it kind of taught me a lot of lessons on things I hope to pass along to my swimmers over my career, because that's why I got this job. Like, I got in to work with really good people and have an impact on young individuals. Those were my two focal points in what I was going to do in this job. And so I think if you can teach athletes to kind of have some self-accountability, both in and out of the water, you're going to have a successful program. I mean, it's inevitable. So that was the biggest thing I kind of took away from my experience there. But that's what I plan to bring to this program and continue to fight for championships.
That's awesome. That's incredible. I mean, again, I don't think people can, as someone who's gone through the college circuit now and who's gone through a lot of development as well, a lot of upbringing, and I'm very grateful for the individuals that I've gotten to surround myself with and the people that have influenced my life as well. And to hear that there's some of those intangible things, the things that aren't directly, yeah, I hope to come in here and create this crazy cool swim set. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's important at some level, but that's not what's always going to move the needle. It's how can I, all right, as like being Mike here, like I see Grant is struggling today. Like Grant is not having a good day. Like body language low, morale low, very quiet if he's a social person. How can I like extract the best version out of Grant today to make him even produce a better result for the practice he's probably about to have, or incentivize him or encourage him to be a better version of himself? Like those are like the wins that I think like coaches have. And as my experience is giving private lessons, working and coaching and my internships, like when I went and saw the athletes that I coach for baseball play the game finally, like I trained them in strength and conditioning. But when I saw them in the game, I was like crazy baseball dad out there. I was pumped. I was like, what's going on? Like, why'd you drop that ball? Like, obviously you didn't mean to drop the ball. Like, it's just, you see all those intangible aspects that are more than just hitting, moving weights, swimming, flip turns. And I think that's so incredible to hear. And one thing that, one of the biggest influences I've ever had in my life as well, I met in high school, met a little bit before high school, but Jim Brower at St. Xavier High School, had spent some time with Cincinnati Marlins as well. But St. Xavier High School, he's a math teacher as well there, but swim coach, former head coach, and just I can't say enough great things about the individual. But the man has been through a lot of adversity, especially in the last time frame of his life. And the thing that he would always say, very simply, like you said, the simple things, not trying to reinvent the wheel. If you look like a duck, you act like a duck, and you quack like a duck, you're probably a duck. And at first I was like, this dude is absolutely in another dimension right now. But really what it's like, if you act like a champion, if you work like a champion, if you have the mindset of like a champion, you're going to exude champion aspects and you're going to pursue that path.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really like the tone of the frequency of what I'm hearing from you, especially across all of the program there. But really your goal of it is really instilling these principles like at St. Bonaventure, like when you take responsibility, when you have accountability, when you have ownership over your own career, you're going to feel more empowered. You're going to, when you start mimicking these traits, these characteristics, the rest of it like takes care of itself. It's so impactful, and it's really cool to hear that from the athlete side of it, going through that, learning that in your experience, and then now giving back to the athletes has to be so cool.
Yeah. Can't beat it, man. Can't beat it.
Love it. Love to hear it. Well, we're going to transition from that absolute bar into quack like a duck, absolute bar. We're gonna transition into our three of our best segments ever. Three of the best segments in all of podcasting. Some people are saying, sources are telling me, Matt Martinez was actually just on the phone with me the other day, and he's like, dude, people are blowing up about hot takes and Kirk Cousins. And I was like, well, it works out.
Yeah.
Trevor's a Vikings fan. Tough stuff lately for him, but here we go. We're gonna go into it. So, folks, I didn't give Mike a heads up on these. That's on me. I'm going to take ownership on that. And so I'm going to lead with all of these. Give Mike a little bit of time to get the juices flowing, get the brain going on what really grinds his gears lately. But one of my first hot takes is, and this, I don't know if this is kosher to really say, but swimming needs betting. And
yes.
Okay. And I think if we're talking about entertainment value right now, the people at the top are adding, and I'm not trying to like bash on anyone who swims these events. Like, good for you if you can, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
things way fun, more fun, but like they're worried about adding the 800 meter, the mile, and all these longer events that they're not even showing the entire race at the Olympic Games or World Championships
Yeah.
for. And we need to be adding more entertainment factors, more excitement, more energy, not just for the swimmers, but for like the sake of our sport. And so if we're looking at entertainment factors and things that are going to engage viewers, like the CEO of the CEO of swimming, Kyle Stockwell, like he's taken it to, I think, a stream now. I don't really understand all of what that's going to entail, but
Yeah.
he's trying to take it to new levels. And it basically comes down to engagement, viewership, and interactions. And if we're trying to drive that, we want the most exciting events, 50s a stroke, 50 free, 4x50 freestyle, 4x50 medley. We need those in the Olympics and World Championships. World Championships already had the 50s. And we need ways to bring people, put butts in seats. Because right now at ASU, love the school to death. We have the swim. I don't know if this is the same in Alabama or if this is the same unanimously, but swimming doesn't charge anything for tickets. And my first comment is, oh, how much do I have to pay for a ticket? I'm like, dude, you literally just show up and walk through a door. They don't even sell tickets.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people just don't understand is we see football, obviously the stadium, but filling that and getting the excitement, I think that's an easy way to encourage engagement, have some literal and obviously literal, but figurative investment into the account and into the event of swimming and the sport, but also just like make you more interesting. Like, why would I invest time? It's like, well, we do it with horse racing, we do it with college basketball, we do it with college football already. Like, it's pretty much everywhere, even though the NCAA doesn't always want to say it. But I think it's a way that could increase engagement, like at some level, like at least start the ball rolling in a new way than just, all right, we'll just wait until they add 50s to the Olympic Games, hopefully one day in 25 years. Like, no, there has to be like some preliminary steps before that. So that's my hot take. I think I can't believe like that's not happening more often, or someone isn't like, here's the swim sports book and like just opens it, and only swimmers really like know about it, or the swim community, until it gets bigger and bigger. But yeah, I don't know. That's one thing that I've thought is wild isn't more prevalent, like, or each individual sport doesn't have like their own aspect of that, because the people who love the sport know all about it and they would love to do that. They would love to do that because they're invested and they know the stats, the data, the history, the people. So that's my hot take. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I have to be careful here because we had like three.
I'm out of the disclaimer. I'm out of the NCAA now.
Yeah. I have to be careful here. Our university just sat us all down numerous times and talked about there's no place for sports gambling in college athletics, which I agree.
In college athletics.
Yeah,
Also disclaimer, I should have led with this. This is, of course, outside of all college athletes. Yeah. We would never promote that on the podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I've had this take about the sport for a long time. And it started with media too. Like, I honestly, like, I love what a lot of these podcasts, Kyle, Brett Hawk, and the SwimBrosPodcast, and like, I love the growth in the media. Okay. People are learning about it. People are knowing about what's going on in the swimming world. I mean, we're getting smarter as a sport because people, like, swim coaches always talk to everybody about what they're doing. Like, it's just, we're super open about it. Now it's online. Now it's everywhere. But the thing that drove me nuts for a long time with swimming was the interviews were very often always the same. What were you thinking when you did that time, that one time? And it was just like, it's great. We got to get the facts out there. We got to learn about what they were thinking. But like, we got to spice it up a little bit. And that was kind of when I was thinking about doing a podcast. I was like the Pardon My Takes of the world. And like, yeah, it's a little like aggressive. But it's also like, we need to have that kind of fun, that mindset of like promoting this in a fun environment. And like, it's not just like, what did so-and-so do? It's like, let's get some hype. Let's get some controversy around it. Like, I don't know, like when there's swimmer feud, Twitter blows up. People go nuts. And it's like, it's just, the nature of human beings. So I agree with the take. I think there needs to be stuff more like that. But also like just the sport in general just needs a little bit more of an edge, which leads me to my take.
Ooh.
Sign me up. And I had this when ISL was first getting started, and I remember they tweeted out like, "What could ISL do to promote the league?" And my my biggest idea was, which shout out to PFT,
Go.
listening to your guys' podcast when he said you got to make the water red, or whatever he said. But no, I actually I said that swimming needs fighting.
Yes.
And like, I don't know if we have any hockey fans here. I'm not like a huge hockey guy, but yeah, maybe don't clip this part. But they like,
This is going everywhere.
Could you imagine like Caleb Dressel and Florent Manadou like getting out and like duking it out because of like whatever reason? Like, I'm not saying this is the right take. I'm not saying I completely agree with this, but also like that would be electric. And
Oh yeah.
so maybe not like my truest, hottest take, but also like there needs to be stuff to add some edge to the sport. And that was my idea like 10 years ago or whatever it was.
No, I think I don't know if you can have a more hot take than swimming.
It probably get me fired, but we're here for the views.
A predominantly country club, non-confrontational, no physical aspect to it. Like I was thinking about it when you were like going into it, like swimming, like you were kind of leading into it. I was like, yeah, like sometimes I just want to see someone lob a haymaker like across the lane line. I was like, I know if there's sometimes after the race where I look at the guy that beat me, I'm like, man, I just want to sucker punch you right in the face. Like everyone doesn't like losing. Like we've all been there. We're going to be adults here. I'm going to admit that. Like, do I do it? No. Do I say a couple like words under my breath? Yeah. Like that's real. Yeah. But would I ever fight someone? I mean, I don't know. I haven't thus far, but there's been some times when you want to. I remember one time there was oh my gosh, this was hilarious. I won't say the swimmer's name, but in recent history, which doesn't take much for U of A, but there was a U of A swimmer that it was the start of the crumble of them and the ascension of us. And I think it was at home, it was at Tempe, and we had just beat them. And I think I swam the 500 that meet because they needed me to beat them, and I swam the 200. And then we beat their relay, and he was only on the last relay. Mm-hmm. And we beat them again, and like it just starts raining down like ASU, like go Devils. And he just gets out and he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs. He's just like, see you at PAX. And I'm like in the water still listening to this. I'm like, this is hilarious. Like someone needs to be filming this right now. This is awesome. And obviously like nothing came of it. Other than us beating them at PAX. But I was like, that's the fire that we need. And that's why like I always like, I mean, I typically do like if I have a good thing for the team or myself, like throw a little celly out there, like get some pizzazz, like make it enjoyable. So I love that hot take. I don't know if I can be the first one to break into that. But I'll start maybe like implementing one training day a week of like a UFC like MMA class, and then we'll see where it goes. I don't know what it's gonna be, but
I'm sure Herb could draw up something for sure.
Yeah. We already do like handstands and tuck jumps and all that stuff. So maybe some right jabs, left jabs, just working on the shoulder rotation. I'm sure there's something in there that he's got to be able to cook up. So I'm sure. Oh my gosh. What if there was like coaching fights too? I'm sure there's.
Oh my gosh, dude! Like
electric.
Trevor would be all about that. He likes to box. I always joked with him. I was like, "Why would you pay to go get your face punched?" Because I lived with him last year. I was like, "I'll do it for free if you want." And,
there we go. Man, I would love to see that. Trevor made a mano-a-mano with Austin Pallado now at ASU. I just watched this man I don't even know what the quick add up on it is, but at least over 300
Big
pound
boy.
back squat. Yeah, just
Big
at
boy.
least over 300 pounds back squatting. And I think he said he was sitting at like 220. So I was like, this guy's got some power. And just see those two just slug it out over a disqualification. That'd be epic. Epic. So, but this podcast doesn't encourage violence on the daily basis. Only when in self defense or merited.
Yeah, or gambling. Call 1-800-GAMBLING.
Yeah. I guess there we go as well too. We're hitting all the hotlines this one. Next is lane lines. So great hot take segment. I think the You Like That segment is going to be electric. So I might get a call from Kirk Cousins on the You Like That. But lane lines, for me, I've been hitting a bunch of TV shows, a bunch of that lately. I just finished this book, and I don't know if I've given a lane line rating on it yet, but I just finished this book called The Waterman. It was actually given to me by I don't even know how to phrase this, but it would be my ex-brother-in-law's mother. I think I nailed that exactly. Yeah. But it was given to me from her, and it basically gives a super in-depth image and visualization and timeline of American swimming. The star of the show, Charlie Daniels, basically became the first guy to revolutionize like American swimming because no one gave a care in the world about it. Yeah. And it was like in the end of like 1890s. And then into like early 1905, 1902, and just basically was the first guy to ever like take on the British Empire, like the British Armada with like swimming, and Australia as well. And just absolute dog, just took it to him. Just all like starting out super like adverse beginning, walking like I think it was like 2 miles in the snow in New York to go to the New York Athletic Club, which he like snuck into to get his first reps in. But crazy cool story, great book. Probably if you're not interested in swimming, not very interesting at all. But as a swimmer, as a swimming podcast, it was very, very engaging, very like identifying with the hero epic journey there. And I'll give it a 9.2 out of 10. I loved it. There were some dry spots, but every time you get further into the book, you're like, I needed that background information. I needed that to appreciate this now, which is a deeper life metaphor for everyone. But I'm going to give it a 9.2 out of 10 lane lines. It's called The Waterman. I think anyone listening to this podcast would thoroughly enjoy that, being a historian of swimming.
Oh, okay. I like it. My lane lines, I guess. So actually, for Breaking Bad fans out there, I'm like halfway through it and
first time.
Yeah, first time. So okay. I apologize to probably offended a lot of people for not watching that one. My girlfriend.
I've never seen an episode. It's okay. I'll back you on this.
All right. Okay. So, all right. I don't feel that bad now. That's it. From where I'm at now, I haven't even finished it. And I know the ending apparently is amazing. I don't even know what it is. No spoilers. But I would give it, I'd probably go 9.2 lane lines. Like it's high. Like it's like the writing is just crazy. It's so good. And I'm not even done with it yet. But I'll go something a little bit less known. So there's a movie, and I hope I'm remembering it right. What it's called? I'm pretty sure it's called Frequency.
Okay.
It's old. It's old. Like probably 10, 15 years old. So I don't really want to spoil it too much because like the story, like I was like shook, like mouth, like jaw to the ground, like was what? Like one of those moments. And so how it starts is so there's a firefighter, and I mean he I'm trying to remember the actor's name, bigger actor, but he comes home to his family, and he's like he loves these like type of radios, these old radios. And so he set up his house with like a big antenna, and then he like talks to people on the radio, probably like truckers and stuff like that. So
it's a newer movie, isn't it?
Is it newer? I thought it was kind of older.
Or like, go on. Sorry I interrupted. That was
like, you're good. You're good.
There was one that involved radios recently that I was thinking of.
Oh no, I think there is another one.
Okay, continue on. The antenna on the house.
Yeah. So and so that's kind of like where it happened. So he goes to work one day, And like he, like this doesn't really spoil the movie. It's fairly early in the morning, so he goes into a huge fire. He's like a hero, and but he ended up passing away. And so in the beginning of the movie, he has like his family, his wife, and his son. And his son grows up like the firefighter passes away when the kid's like 8 or 9 years old, like he's young. So he grows up and he stays in the house that his family like owned, like it was there. He stayed in that house. He lives in that house to this day. And he's a cop, kind of depressed, like breaks up with his girlfriend in the beginning, like kind of all down in the dumps. Kind of is just going through old boxes and finds his dad's old radio. And so and this is kind of a spoiler, but it's going to set the stage. And so he turns it on, he's messing around, and all of a sudden, like, there's like lights in the sky, like northern lights, and it's like all voodoo-y and stuff, whatever. And all of a sudden he starts talking to some guy, and he's talking to some random dude. The radio still works. It's in like pristine condition still. He's talking to some guy on the radio, like, oh yeah, like they kind of just talking. And then the next night, like the conversation gets a little weird. He's like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, like that's similar to my dad and I. Turns out somehow he's talking to his dad in the past on the radio. And I'll leave it at that.
Dude.
I'll leave it at that.
Chills.
I'll leave it at that. And my girlfriend recommended it to me. She's never given me a bad recommendation in anything.
Nice.
And, so from there, it's a whole crazy adventure from there. Yeah.
Heck yeah, I gotta check that out now. I'm
Frequency.
All right, frequency. It's on the list, the to-do list now. So
wait, the lane lines, 8.9 lane lines.
Wow. Okay, so we got a 9.2 and an 8.9.
Yeah, I was shook on that movie.
Wow, this has got to be like the highest ratings we've ever had. We got a 9.2, 9.2, and an 8.9. That's good stuff. Those are good stats. The last segment, Kirk Cousins' favorite. You like that. Mine's going to stay in the NFL, just nomenclature for the man himself, Kirk Cousins, because I heard a quote today from Austin about Kirk Cousins, and I was just like, I gotta keep it there. I got the podcast rolling with Mike later, so we just gotta keep it NFL. Yeah. Mike, you like that? Monday Night Football, ugly win, but a win is a win, folks. And the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Shiesty, they brought out the W. So we're on the board, 1-2. I still don't know if I'm very optimistic about the season. They signed another backup quarterback for Joe's calf that is not healing for whatever reason. I really don't. I've never heard of a calf injury being this serious before, but I guess it's really the black plague to this man that just made $270 million. But we got to win, so it's great. Or they got to win. I didn't. I was just a participant, but a viewer, if you may, not even a participant. But it was great to see the Cincinnati Bengals win. So that was glad. Long overdue. I thought they should have won a couple other games, but they've been playing atrociously. So as a Cincinnati sports fan, it's par for the course. Reds giving us a little hope before the All-Star break this year, and then just absolutely crushing it in classic Cincinnati sports fashion. I shouldn't have expected anything else, but it was nice to get a win up on the Cincinnati sports tally board. So that's my you like that for the week.
Oh man, dude, I was hoping I could come up with something I was feeling good about. So the premise, just so I'm correct, is the pressure is on. Just so I'm correct, it's just something that I'm liking right now, or
something that fires you up in a positive way that you love. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like if like Nick Saban came into the room right now and was just like, Mike, you're my favorite coach. Like, that'd be pretty freaking huge.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything in Alabama? Is there a restaurant that you've gone to? Is there like a local diner? Have you munched on some powdered French toast? Anything like that? Even if it's a book or another thing. Like, we already got a twofer in the lane line ratings, so you're already batting 3 for 3 here. Now this is just the extra innings hit.
Yeah. the food in Alabama so far, especially Tuscaloosa that I've had, is like it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options. I was not expecting this much options. But oh man, I feel like I'm gonna give a boring answer. But I don't know. It's definitely chalk. But this was what first came to my mind when you asked this question, and I didn't realize we were gonna get so like not serious for a while. But I'll just say my like that, or whatever you like that, is just kind of me getting to do this job. And you talked about something early in the beginning of the podcast of kind of like everything happens for a reason. I quit my job. Not to talk about my old job, but I mean, it was a very cushy salary, like did well, like had a whole life. And I quit that job to follow this passion. So never be afraid to take risks. Never be afraid to take that one chance you just feel is right. For a long time, and I didn't know it was going to become a lesson in my life, but for a long time, I felt like I was going against the grain. And if I can give one piece of advice to young coaches, young athletes getting into new careers, whatever it is, like go with the grain, follow the grain, because I was going against the grain for 3 or 4 years. Just felt like I was doing these things for the wrong reasons, and it was way too hard to get some of my things that I was doing done. Like it just like there was too much effort needed. There was too much like the grind wasn't because I wanted to grind. It was because I wanted the cookie at the end of the path or whatever. I don't know. But I just if you follow the grind, or excuse me, go with the grind, good things will happen because you're probably doing things for the right reason, which is exactly how I got here, and it's exactly how I'm going to continue the rest of my career.
Wow, that was I did not expect that one. That one,
either.
I'm ready to run all the way to Titletown now.
Let's go.
That was great. That was awesome. That was everything and more this segment could have asked for. And that's awesome. I think that's incredible. That was the hook. That's probably going to be the hook for this whole episode is really bringing that full circle for a lot of the lessons here. But I'm really glad that you shared that sentiment, that vulnerability, and that you have that feeling and that emotion with the process of where your life's gone. And I think I see a lot of people, I never got this sense from you, but a lot of swimmers, because it's such a grueling sport, are really vengeful at the end of their lives. Like, I did all this for what? Mm-hmm. And, sometimes like it shows and materializes in so many different ways. Like maybe it doesn't come until fatherhood. Maybe it doesn't come until you're a coach, like whatever it is, it does materialize. I think this sport does incredible things for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And just a wholesome way to end the podcast today. And I think Trevor had another wholesome one. So it's just been, the hits keep coming with us, folks. That's the thing that you got to know. The Swim Bros podcast does not disappoint.
Let's go.
Week after week, episode after episode. So Mike, thank you for exceeding expectations on this podcast. I was pumped to get to know you a little bit better. I'm stoked to meet you on the pool deck next time our paths cross.
Yeah.
And is there anywhere that you want to have people reach out or follow you to get some more tunes on deck, to get those EDM beats going with DJ Mikey White? Where can the people follow you?
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram. I think it's mdubs95 or something like that. I don't know. I got to work on that one. Follow my coaching Twitter. I love Twitter or X, whatever it is. Follow it. I think it's Coach Mike White 1 or Coach Michael White 1, something like that. I can't remember. I love swim Twitter. You can actually learn a lot. If you follow the right accounts, and the algorithm will teach you a lot. It's awesome. But yeah, you can follow me there. Follow the Alabama Swim and Dive Instagram as well. Trying to get
Roll
those
Tide, baby.
followers up. And if anybody wants to reach me, just shoot me a DM or something like that. Like I'm always open to chatting and talking about the sport.
Heck yeah. This guy's got great content on the Twitter sphere, the X sphere, whatever you want to call it. Like Mike said, I've seen it firsthand. I've engaged with it firsthand. And I can attest as well that, once you tune out the noise, the algorithm or your circle
Yeah.
definitely shows up. You get guys like Mike, myself, Jack Little, Herbie, SH3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a wealth of swimming knowledge there. I'm just going to toot our own horns there, but Mike, thank you so much for hopping on. This was great. I'm excited to get this out and excited for people to listen to, and for all the audience members, all the listeners, thank you. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave a 5-star review. It really helps the podcast, helps me continue to get great guests like Mike on here and to sharing stories and to sharing his journey to allow the listeners and the entire swimming community to grow a lot more. So thank you all for listening again, and live life daily. Thank you.